afternoon, everyone. We are glad to see so many of you joining us for a webinar that's pretty important about ways to declutter and maintain your student manager in ACEware. And I know there's a full agenda today, so I think we should get right to it. You ready, Chuck?
I am ready. I am ready. So I believe if you're...
I am seeing your screen, so...
We've got somebody. If that's Cheryl, if that's you, you may need to go mute.
Just mute your sound.
Somebody, okay. Still getting, somebody is on a phone that is looping back. There we go. I think we got it. Check 1, check 2. All righty. Very good. Well, folks, thank you for joining us. Basically, what we're looking at today is we talk about spring cleaning. You can clean anytime. I have a rule that I only clean it on leap years, on my desk on leap years. But your database really needs more attention than that. And we'll talk about again, names and firms, which are one of the big ones. But the other one are certainly your codes, locations, your interest codes, just updating things like your users, your locations. I want to cover again the whole idea of deactivating courses. We'll talk about archiving, the new features in Student Manager, and kind of review the maintenance schedule for Manager in ACEware. And then I have examples of this. We're going to go through kind of a PowerPoint, and I want to give a shout out to Deb Champion, one of our ACEware aces who had helped put together the slideshow. And Deb was, one of her fortes was trying to keep the database up to date or keep it pruned. So we certainly want to talk about that. Well, before we get into it, we want to talk about the idea, why do you care about the data? The data's in there, you've got a lot of computer. Why are you worried about cleaning up the data? Because it will run faster with better data. And again, what that's going to do, you as the cleaner-upper get to be the hero. So again, there is a reason for that. I don't have a slide for this, but everybody around who's a gardener knows that planting a garden isn't simply a matter of coming out in April, throwing seeds in the ground, and coming back in 2 months. You do have to maintain, you have to provide some care for that, and a database is no different. And again, it's even, especially if you have, of course, ACEware, where you've got student centering information, and so the need to kind of watch for duplicate names and kind of cleaning up the firms. Again, that is why you're here, and hopefully you'll come home with some ideas on how to do that. First of all, we always say, again, make a backup before doing any maintenance. And again, most all maintenance issues are ones that you need to do, but just in case you accidentally press the wrong button, backups are a good idea. All right, so to make a backup from Manager in the classic version, it's Tools, Backup Data. You'll get the data backup routine. Of course, you know that you can only run the ACEware internal backup if you have every user out of the system. So again, that is something you need to do. One note is that if you are not able to use the internal ACEware backup, that can be because of the way your IT people set up your access to Manager. It's called UNC file referencing versus file mapping. If you can't do backups right from your student manager, get with your tech and they should be able to help you get a setup or get a connection to Manager that will let you do that. All right, one of the other tools, and we had a webinar about this that is in the webinar archive, but we've partnered with a company called CleverFox. And this is a subscription service that can automatically back up your student manager data on a schedule of your choosing, and it actually stores a copy of the backup in a web-based vault, similar to if you would Carbonite or some of the you know, commercial web-based backups. I use it for my personal computer, and again, slick as can be. I think it's about $10 a month for the basic system. Again, to learn more about it, go to cleverfox.com. We do have a webinar in the webinar archive that talks about that. So, backup. Now, note, we've got several people now that are running the SQL version of Student Manager. Again, the internal ACEware backup does not back up a SQL database. This is something your internal SQL people on campus need to be doing. So make sure that if you're on SQL, make sure that your DBA at the campus is working on that. All right, data cleanup firms. One of the things that you're likely to run into is that you can have multiple firm names for any given individual. And so again, if we were to go to Student Manager here, and I'm looking up ACEware Systems, and I'm looking here at the firms, and I have ACEware Systems singular, ACEware Systems plural, ACEware Systems Incorporated versus just Inc. That stuff like that happens where you just have multiple firms in the system. And so the SM data cleanup is one way to be able to do that. Basically, we're going to go ahead and do one live while we're already in here. So the way you get into that is that under the Tools area, under Data Cleanup Firms, it brings up the Data Cleanup tool. And this is similar, I think Catalog, I think Location uses this same type of screen. And generally what you would be doing is putting in a match criteria. If you have a particular industry that's a common industry, a lot of people coming, and it has potential for misspellings, what you would want to do is type in a keyword, ACE or system, and refresh, and it'll show you all of the matches in your firms. There's ACEware System Inc. And to combine, what you do is control-click on all the ones that you want to combine. In this case, I want to combine all of these particular ones. So I want to do, well, I'm going to say, let's try this, ACE or System. Right, try that. Oh, there's ACE Hardware. We don't want ACE Hardware, but all those other four we want. And we've decided the one we want to keep is the ACEware Systems World Headquarters. You'll note on the right it tells you how many names are in each one of the firms. So what you do is you do your control click, select the different columns or the different rows that you want to combine, and the last record you selected will appear down in the bottom. This is the data that would be replaced for all of the ones that we've entered. So the very last one I want to click is the World Headquarters. I'm good with that kind of a selection. Now again, if you wanted to clean up the address here and you wanted to do something with the address or put in a secondary address, you can actually edit an address right here as well. Hit the replace button, and it will then automatically replace all of the names. It'll automatically replace firms. And there you go. Ka-ching, we have one ACEware Systems with 8 people tied to that. So that is an example of a firm cleanup tool. Data cleanup broken firms. Now this is one, it's a little difficult. Well, I was kind of to make sure you understand what's going on. When you are entering firms from Student Manager, it validates the firm name so that when we're working with Manager, I got a tab around, hang on. When we're working with Manager and we're typing in a firm name, it will not let you leave without validating. In other words, there must be a firm record behind that. However, for ACEweb, if you're doing firm, you're asking people to enter a company name or firm name in ACEweb, it doesn't validate it, it just stores the firm name in the name field, and the firm is kind of hanging loose. It doesn't have a connection to the firm table, which is a normal case. One of the new tools that Matthew put together for us under data cleanup is to fix broken firm links. And what this will do, and I have an example here, I imported a database from a conference that I just recently came from. And so what this is going to do, match up the firms in the names with the firm in your firm table. And again, if it can't find a link, it will have an opportunity to report those. Again, recommend a backup. We're going to continue with this. And it says, okay, no names showing that will be automatically matched. We're going to hit escape. And now it says, we found good firm links and matched them to names. There are 216 firms with records with an unmatched firm. Now see, those would be ones that would be typically coming from ACEware. So if you run this, just not to shock you, if you run this for the first time and you've had ACEware running for quite a while, you could have literally thousands of name records where there's a firm assigned to the name, but there isn't a firm.
I'll tell everybody. There you go.
Well, it looks like Chuck has lost audio. Hopefully he's getting it back shortly. Hold on a second, people.
Hello, hello. I am back. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Very good. All right. Well, so how far, Matthew? When did you lose me here?
Good question.
Okay. Well, we were talking about if you have been using ACEware and you've never run this firm cleanup routine or the firm link cleanup, you could have several hundred or a couple of thousand of name records where, again, the name record has a firm setting in the firm field, but it doesn't have a firm in the firm table. So the tool allows you some options. Number one, you can make a firm in the firm table to just have the firm name so that you actually have a link to the firm. Number two, you can make a firm and use the address from the name to fill out the address of the firm. So again, if you've got typically people using business addresses, you might want to use the make firm. If you think people are using a home address with their firm, then you might want to use the make firm name only. I'm going to use the business model. So it'll tell me that I've put those together, and I think, Matthew, it's done. So now this is one I know. Kilgore Community College was one that I added. And did I save that? It doesn't. There it is. So this is the record that I created for 2017 that the cleanup routine automatically matched up to the firm. So that would allow you now, when you go into that firm record, to say, show me all the employees from that firm. ACEware World Headquarters. But that you would be able to, it basically gives you a better job of tracking those firms in your system. Duplicate name elimination, and this really is something hopefully everyone has mastered by now, but the one-by-one cleanup of duplicate names, just as you find them as you're navigating in the database, it is the good twin, evil twin, where you copy the ID number from good twin, paste it over the evil twin. And again, you'll get several confirmations. First of all, warning, is it all right to change a number? Then it'll tell you what the twin is that this ID is assigned to, and you have the option edit, re-enter, or combine. And if you do combine, it'll tell you all records all data for the record that you're sitting on, which is you take good twin, paste it over evil twin. So like the evil twins, registrations, codes will go to the other name, and it'll be marked for deletion. So it's the one-on-one. Matthew has built and done a good job with a new integrated combined names tool that lets you do it in a mass mode. And again, you'll see the notice, make a backup. So from data cleanup, combined names, you'll get a little tool. How do you want to do it? Portion of the last first name, full last name, full address, and zip, using email only, using user-defined search. So if you use the standard, it'll ask you how many letters of the first name do you want to match on, and it'll then generate a generated report for you. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll run that now. So tools, data cleanup, combined names. So portion of first name, full last name, address, and zip. Now I'm just going to do the report. 3 letters of the first name, and it tells us here are the 2 pairs that are matched. Romelia, there's a misspelling, there's a Jerome and a Jerry, look to be the same person. So the automatic combine would be preview combine. Now, and then we'll go ahead and show that. Have you made a backup? This will show you all of the potential duplicates. If those are correct, you can just hit the done and it'll automatically combine those. Now, if you have a name in here that is not a duplicate, and examples might be you've got Jerry Barrow and Geraldine Barrow. For some reason, husbands and wives happen to have Charles and Christina, Robert and Roberta, John and Joanna, I don't know. But the idea is that if there is a match that the system spins out for you, and typically husband and wife or spouses, father, son, junior, seniors, if there is one of those that is a match that you say, wait a minute, those are not the same pure person, to take them out of the match mode, all you have to do is unclick one of the pairs. So you don't have to do both. Just unclick one of the pairs, do the done, and it will combine the rest of them. Now, I'm going to deselect all, and we're going to go back and try this again, but we're going to use a user-defined search. Have you made a backup? Now, the user-defined search allows us, or allows us to define exactly how we might want to match that record. So, again, this is one that if you want to do some changing, you might want to check with your tech unless you are familiar with the syntax of doing partial strings here. So what I'm going to do here, the substring name 1, 3 means that I'm going to look at 3 letters of the first name. I want to look at the first 5 letters of the last name. Now, the reason for this is that if you have a name like Havlicek, where folks can usually get H-A-V-L, but at that point they go bonkers, C-H-E-K, C-H-E-C-K, C-K-K-K, that if you use a partial of the last name, it will give you perhaps more. You still with me, Matthew?
You're missing a 1 though. NM name 3, comma 1.
NM3, comma. Okay, I need the comma in the wrong place. I need the comma right there. Thank you, Matthew.
No problem.
There we go. And the other thing is the address. If you've got addresses that have street names, you might want to take that address down and use a partial address. And again, the idea, the fewer letters of a record that you match, the more likely you are to get records that aren't duplicates, but it'll also help you identify the oddball typing and It takes a bit more eyeballing, but it'll generally get rid of more duplicates. So let's see if the Matthew's eyeballing is going to work, and there we go. So here we have an example. Marcello, Greg Marcello, Gregory Marcello, Greg Marcello with 2 L's. So again, in this case, those are all the same name, and we're going to let those go through. Jerome and Jerry, and again, if for some reason we think Jerry is different, they're 2 brothers, and why Mom called them Jerome and Jerry, we don't know. But we're going to remove them so that they're not combined. This should combine 3 duplicate names. And so that is the duplicate name tool. Matthew, comment on that?
Now, Chuck, just for everybody to understand, the one that you've left checked then is the one that's going to become the master name of all. That's the one you're keeping.
Well, no, it actually, and Matthew can address this. When you have 3 names, we didn't pick one of the 3. I unchecked the one Barrow so that there should still be 2 Barrows left. On the Marcello, I believe, Matthew, it uses M-A-R-S.
It's the newest one, and it lists. It should be, I believe, the newest one on top, and that's the one that becomes the master.
So it uses the latest record that is entered in the system is the one on the multiples of that. So yeah, the automatic routine uses a kind of a date new as the primary order on that. All right.
Now
any questions?
I'm questioning myself whether it's the newest or the oldest. So I will double check that.
Okay. All right.
Let's
get
see.
Matthew.
We have that question from the audience on how do you know? How do you indicate which one you're wanting to keep when you're combining?
Like I said, Matthew, that is automatic in the lookup routine. Now, Matthew, I'm going to ask you if you're still listening. Does the combined name routine also do the spare body parts if one record has a fax number and the other does not? Whether it's primary or secondary, it tries to save, or is that only on the single name combined?
Yeah, if it's missing from the primary record, then it will pull in from the secondary records the missing data. And so it does look like the oldest record is the one that's kept. I do believe, though, like if the password field does keep from the newest record.
Okay. So there's a logic in the back of that, but it is, yeah, the mass routine does not allow you to determine who is major and or not. Well, we're talking about that, and again with Avery, do I have, where's my A-V-E-R, right, Lisa Avery, okay. So the idea of if you've got 2 records in the system, Lisa Avery, good twin, and we've got Lisa Avery, evil twin. From the standpoint of data that you want to say the evil twin has a day phone and the good twin has a cell phone, and we'll put that in here. When you do a combine from the name record, you copy the ID of the good twin, go to the evil twin. You go to the record that is the lesser of the 2, paste it over that. It will save any, again, body part, any data from the old record or the evil record over to the good record. So it does try to preserve as much data as possible. So again, here's Lisa Avery, good twin is the survivor. She brought over the day phone from the evil twin. All of the registrations from the evil twin are carried over to Lisa. And so it does try to preserve data when you're doing combinations. And the same thing applies when you're doing the mass combine. Sharon, how are we doing there? Any buzz that we want to address?
Well, we're doing okay, but I think that we will probably want to talk about their questioning why the oldest record would be saved in a mass combine instead of the newest record, which would have the most current information, you might think. So maybe we might need to talk about a way that in a mass combine we choose the one we want. So something to keep on our think list.
Okay. Matthew, you have anything on to add that right now? You did catch that Matthew had said that he does bring over the password from the newest record, but yeah, Matthew, my question would kind of be the same. If we shouldn't start with the you know, the newest to the oldest in terms of bringing that back up. So, all right. So we've done the combined name routine. One of the other tools is address cleanup. And again, a couple of things on that. Number one is assigning missing counties if you are somebody who you like to track the county of the student. The other is standardizing addresses. And again, the idea of standardizing addresses is to change words like road, R-O-A-D to R-D, street to S-T, P.O. box. It does that kind of cleanup. And so again, it just helps the post office, if you're doing mailings, get a better job of getting your stuff delivered. And that's pretty simple. Name purge. And this is one that is kind of unique in that you generally only use this tool, and this is really, most of the tools are coming off of tools. This is under module names, mass delete purge. But if you've got some people that are deceased and you really just kind of need to get their records out of the system, you can go through the mass delete purge. You'll be asked to create a query to select the names to purge, and it will remove the name and the registrations and the payments. So it really is a purge option in the tool set. And again, I'll mention pretty much every one of the routines that we're talking about here does have information in the help guide. So if you said, well, I'm not sure if that fits my needs, feel free to look up the health guide, the online help guide. Health guide? Well, the health of your help. And it'll give you some information about that. Okay, merge duplicate locations. Again, back to the data cleanup area, you've got the same kind of option that if you've got locations that have kind of grown like kudzu with multiple particular records for the same exact location, that's a way for you to clean those up. So we'll go ahead and jump over to that real quick. No, I want to say that we worked hard to clean her up. So module, locations, find a location, ACEware headquarters, ACEware systems. So again, so we've got some duplicate locations. So we'll go tools, data cleanup, locations. This is one that you can do for locations. You can do it for courses, like course names if you're trying to combine course names, or fee names. Now this is one that I think most everybody could go into your system, go into the fees, and combine or replace a bunch of these. So again, the fees are one I know that tends to be horribly duplicative in a lot of those. So again, for ACEware now, you can actually just click to select those, or if you have, more locations than fit on the screen, you can put in a keyword. So we're going to want the ACEware headquarters to be the last one. So again, we'll control click on the two that we want to combine, and the last click will be ACEware headquarters. So we hit the replace. Bam, we've merged those three areas. Sharon, how we doing so far? Is it good?
Looking good.
All right, so again, we've got that up. Data cleanup code areas. The code areas, again, another one that can end up with lots of different elements. And so again, the code areas, department code, account code, coordinator, interest code, subject code, source code, grouping, gender not so much, well, maybe anymore, disability, ethnicity. So coordinator. So here we have, okay, there's a Charles Havlicek, a Chuck Havlicek, and a Havlicek. So what we're going to do is the same as a couple of the others. We're going to control click on the ones that we want to combine, and the last click we put will show us this is the value that if we continue now, replace, it will change these three into Chuck. Kaboom. And we have Chuck. So that, and again, that particular routine, you can use it again, you know, I'm trying to think. Department might, interest subject code is one that probably a lot of us could get into that. If we do an example of that, let's say education. So we have education, we have higher ed, we have learning. Trying to think, are there any others that are basically the same kind of thing? Study. Oh, goodness. Well, let's say that we want to put all of those under education. So again, we're going to click on study. We're going to click on higher ed. We're going to click on learning. And the last one we're going to do is education. Now, again, if you said, well, I want to use all of this for lifelong learning, L-I-F-E-L-R-L-E-A-R, lifelong, and that is lifelong learning. You could choose to replace it with an altogether different one. Replace, and now we've got all 5 of those codes. And again, it'll update your database. So it'll actually go in, clean up your database, and put all those codes together. So that is a good tool certainly to get that done. And then kind of going back to that, we actually have a white paper in the white paper resources on the website that talks about some code areas. If you want, I can reference that. Let me see if I've got the website up. There's GoToWebinar. Right, it's not GoToWebinar. Come over to, there's GoToWebinar. Let's get to the, that's not what I want. Hang, most visited, ACEware. Okay, in the customer area, student manager resources, we've got guides, manuals, and white papers. And one of the white papers is codes. Use them and succeed. So again, if you'd like to follow up on that, there's a good resource for you right there.
And I posted that URL in the chat area for folks to take a look at.
Very good. Thank you. Changing a code value, again, if you're doing, if you're doing one-by-one codes, you can actually do it from the Universal Code Editor. So again, the mass code cleanup is particularly useful when you're trying to combine codes or merge codes. Or I guess if you're wanting to deactivate a bunch of codes at one time. We're going to get to the code editor to talk about that. Merging codes, we've already done several examples of it, and this was one again in the education side here, how to do that. Again, deleting codes. If you just want to absolutely remove them, a batch of them, the code cleanup mass tool is good. But again, if you're doing one by one, I really like to use the master code add edit routine. So again, we're going to jump to live here. So add edit codes, or if you're using the menu, module, codes, you get the Universal Code Editor. So here we'll go into, well, I've cleaned up a bunch of codes already. We'll go into fee items, fee, course main fee descriptions. So at this point, if I wanted to get rid of the company paid or the contract price and wanted to combine those, you can actually do that from right here, company paid, or call it contract price. And again, when you change a code in the code area one by one, it'll tell you a code already exists. If you continue, it will merge these codes. So again, from the main universal code editing, you can combine pretty much any code in the system. Yes, we want to continue. Yes, we want to do that. So it deleted contract price, and instead we've got the, the duplicate of contract price, and we've got all of the, instead it was company paid, it's going to be contract price. Now, the other thing I like about this is that when you're in the Universal Code Editor, it's a good way to get a quick look at how many records in your database have that fee. So if you say, well, I want to know how many courses do I have a fee for contract price? So show that by God, there are 4 courses where I've used that. If I wanted to know how many registrations that I used for that, there were 2. So again, and things like interest code. You're a lot of times, all these interest codes, how many people actually use the interest code? ACEware, we know there are a lot. How many people are interested in art? Show the name draw, date added, 19 names. Okay, go on to the next record. Business, name draw, date added, 11. Well, look at that. There are more artsies than business people out here, so go figure. Anyway, that Universal Code Editor is a good one on that. Now, while we're here on codes, let's talk about active and inactive. Pretty much every code in the system, course information. Well, here's a good one. Get over here. Get over. Coordinators. How many of you, when you are adding a coordinator to a course, why am I not getting to coordinators? There we go. How many of you, when you're adding a coordinator to a course, are looking through the list and you see Rip Van Winkle 8 years ago is still showing up in the list, even though he's been retired for 8 years? Well, the reason why is that no one has ever deactivated him. So what you should do, especially on things like coordinator, account number, if you've got account numbers that are no longer valid, and in terms of assigning for courses, what you need to do is make sure you go into that code area and uncheck the active box on those records that are not valid for current entry of courses. The data will remain there. Any data that, or any courses, records, names that you assign that code to in the past will still have that code. It's just that not being active, you will not see that name appear or that code appear when you are assigning new codes to records. So again, that's your way to kind of help ensure the accuracy of the data in your system. Okay, Sharon?
I have some questions about combining duplicate instructor names.
Duplicate instructor names, the same thing applies. Good question. The same thing applies to instructors as it is on names. And I don't have Alex Smith, Martin Smith, and let's pretend that Alex and Martin are the same guy. So the idea here is that what you use as the ID to combine is the faculty system ID. So if I wanted to take Alex and combine his record with Martin, is it Martin? Yeah, Martin Smith. I copied the faculty ID from the one duplicate, pasted it over the new one, and then when I do save, you'll get the warning. You've changed this record to Alex's. If you do, you're going to combine any history for Alex and Martin together, and we've combined the name. But yes, that's a good point. And again, the same thing applies for locations. If you want to do one-on-one, you've got two Kanza and Wharton Room are now going to be merged together. They're going to be the same thing. You can go to a location record, use that name internal ID, copy it from the one, paste it into the other, and you'll combine just those two locations. So again, most of the code fields, if you're able to see a master ID, that combine ID will be the same behavior. Sharon, does that help?
That's what we needed. Thank you.
All right. So we've got the master code in the show. Matthew, do you have a comment, Matthew?
No.
No. All right. Again, and we talked about the universal code editor, edit codes, combine codes, remove codes, and we certainly talked activate or deactivate codes. All right, now that we're talking about deactivating, let's get into one of my favorite soapboxes, deactivating courses. Deactivating courses is kind of a different issue in that the idea is that what you want to do is when a course is no longer open for general registration, you really ought to deactivate it so it doesn't show up in the list. At the end of the course, after the budget is closed, you've end of the semester, and the idea is that what you can do with that then is that you can just uncheck the active button, and what it'll do is that when a course is inactive and you're doing add registrations, will not show up in the list. Again, they also drop out of the ACEware listings. Again, and here's the big deal. It does not affect any reporting. The data on the course, the income, everything else will still stay there. So you're not removing it from anything reporting-wise. It's just that it's not showing up when you do add new registration from a name record. And again, if you do find, again, the instructor brings you a crumpled up check from a student from a course 4 weeks ago and says, oh, by the way, I forgot, here's Mary's registration fee. You can always go to a course and add a student into that course through the Add Edit Regis button from the course record. So you don't have to go back and reactivate the course. You just go directly to that course and do the Add Edit registrations. And just make sure that people are with me on that, so that if you're on a course and, well, here's an active course, abandoned, you'd be going to lookup, because again, the lookup active course will only show the active courses. The yellow binoculars will show all of the courses in the system. So if we were going to a class from last August that we just found the check for, we could go in and hit Add Edit Registrations. And again, it'll warn you, this course isn't active. Are you sure you want to do this? But you can override it and put in that registration even though the course itself is no longer active. And again, deactivating an individual course, we just check the active button. Why do you deactivate courses? Well, like I said, speed of lookup, avoiding registrations in old courses. All right. So far, so good. Any buzz at this point, Sharon?
Things are going just fine.
Okay. The mass approach, and well, you said you can go into a single course at a time. Normally, if you're doing multiple courses, you only need to do it every month or every quarter. The idea is to kind of keep that quarter. Once it's done, move it on to the pass. And so the tool, Courses, Mass Change, Update, Delete, Archive, gets you to a Mass Update Change tool where you can type in either courses where the begin date is within a date range, or course number begins with, or that have some special criteria. And again, you can change the active status, you can change the lock status, you can change the web publish status. So again, if you're building courses for fall, but you don't want them certainly online for registration yet because you're wanting to tie it to the catalog release, you can do a mass publish to change your web publish status at a particular time. So archiving. Let's talk about archiving. And again, one of the things in 8, we've had a how do you say, a conversion. Initially 8 did not have an archive option. We have since added that back in, and it is now part of the mass update change tool that we've been talking about. So again, your behavior on that is that generally you want to be single user. You want to make a backup of your student manager data. You're going to do module, mass change, update, archive, and then you'll pick archive from the change archive drop-down list. And again, why would you archive? And generally, again, it's to improve speed for both looking up records and reporting. And again, especially if you have a slow network or you've got, again, large size database, you probably want to archive perhaps everything up to the last 2 or 3 years. Again, depending on, you know, the size of your database and on how much historical data do you want to look at any particular time. So when you're doing the mass change archive, you would center the archive criteria. Course number begins with. Once you have put in the criteria, you can actually get a preview. So you're able to actually see, here are the courses that we would archive. You could kind of look through and say, oh my gosh, no, wait a minute, intermediate crochet, that's that special course, and we don't want to archive it because there's some reason for that. You can uncheck it from the list, hit the done button, and you'll move those courses into an archive area. Again, there is also built into that tool a unarchive option. So you really can move courses in and out really pretty easily. And I never want to say anything is totally simple or totally, you know, totally easy, but honest to gosh, it really is pretty darn straightforward. Again, I did some archiving, so I have to kind of get back to that. But the tool, again, courses, mass up, change, delete, archive, unarchive. So again, if you want to move courses back and forth, you can do that. Now, most of the time in the past we used for archiving, we would use begin date. Well, the problem with that is that if you have online courses that are no longer active, where there wouldn't be dates, or if you were putting together a special course to do some special tracking that is no longer relevant to what you're doing, that's where the course number begins option would be a possibility. And again, the idea of being able to do multiple terms where you could do 16S, 16S to be able to do multiple course begins options to help clean that up. Okay, any questions on archiving that are buzzing in there?
Not on archiving, but can you confirm for everybody that when you deactivate courses, that they're still showing up in reports that you might run by course by date?
Absolutely. Yes. And again, the archiving, the archiving, the only thing, or I can say, wait a minute, you're talking archiving, you're talking about active.
Well, specifically, we were talking about deactivating courses.
Deactivating, right. And so the idea that when you are the active courses, okay, the two things are, number one, when you click look up active, all you will see are courses where the active flag is on. The other thing is that if you're in a name record and you do add registration, you're going to only see active courses. Otherwise, any other thing you do, reporting, the F2 key to look up, again, unless you specifically put a criteria or a filter that addresses the active and inactive, you're going to see, you're going to report, you're going to get financial data, you're going to get cash box out of the system whether or not that course is active. So again, the purpose of that is to give you Again, a shorter list of courses to look at when you're putting people into a class.
Chuck, can you talk a little bit about the difference between deactivating and archiving?
Yeah, and there's a significant difference on that. In activating or deactivating, the data is still inside the main copy of Manager. Think of it as two folders. You've got the primary folder of your Student Manager, which would have active courses and inactive courses still in it. When you archive, you actually move the data from the main folder to, if you would, kind of a secondary folder, and the data is not available. So when you archive a course, it disappears from the list of all courses. You can move to archive if you have an archive database, and I didn't set up one with this. Under Preferences, switch to archive. If you've got records you've moved to archive, you can click the Switch to Archive button and go in and actually look at those data records. But I was going to say, the deal is you can't do a longitudinal report between live records and archive records. So that is the big difference. When you archive, you actually move the data out of the main system into a secondary folder. You can go to that secondary folder, but it doesn't automatically, when you want to run a lifetime report, it won't go into archive and live to get you the data, having said that, except things like course history, courses taken, and transcript. Matthew does have it so that whether a course is in archive or in live, courses taken view and transcripts will show both archived and unarchived courses. So again, archive is, and again, this is activating and deactivating is something you probably want to, or you don't generally deactivate. You don't generally activate old courses. But deactivating courses that are no longer taking registrations is something that you generally do on a regular basis. Archiving is something that generally you're not going to do, but once a year, maybe twice a year. That's something that's not a regular maintenance issue. And again, if you don't have issues with performance or speed or database size, you don't even have to worry about archiving. Like I said, it's just if you are struggling a bit with some of the speed issues, get with your tech and take a look at the archiving element, because that will help on speed.
Hey, Chuck.
Okay. Yeah.
Another benefit of archiving is that it puts it into a view-only mode. So you can't make any changes to the course in archive. Okay. You can still, go view the course, but any change you make to the course in archive, it will not save. That's why there is the unarchive mechanism, just in case there is something you need to go in and change. Okay.
So it's again a way to kind of lock down your course history for accidental changes in your history of courses. Thank you, Matthew. All right. Well, we're getting close here. We talked about this is the finishing aspect of doing an archive routine. And again, the other thing about the archive routine is that it creates the tables within your regular manager directory so that the backup routines that you're doing internally with manager, or if you're using SQL, that your SQL database administrator is backing up, are automatically backed up together. So they are that kind of keeps them all in location. Queries, we're running along here. We knew we had a lot to cover, but deleting queries is something, again, that you probably need to pay attention to. And again, if you remember, the run count tells you how many times a person has run that query, or anybody in your user group has run that query. And so again, if some of these in here are duplicative, if some of these in here are ones that, you know, somebody was fooling around with and you really can't tell that it's ever been used more than maybe once or twice, you can go ahead and delete it. I will reference for you that one of the things to pay attention to is that, and this is in the general behavior of queries, is that human beings create these queries. One of the dilemmas is that when you are looking at a query, sometimes the title of the query has nothing to do, or is certainly not completely descriptive of what is in the query. And so the definitive way to test that is to click on the query and hit edit. And then you see this is the actual bona fides of what that query does. But for a quick view, if you just click on the row of the query and now look in the upper right, you'll get kind of the code-ish version, member, $, right trim, member number. Well, I mean, that gives you an idea. There's one element in there. Course enrollment count greater than to be entered later. The thing that you're going to be wary of if you say course number contains, and if you move your mouse, that disappears. But if you look at the upper right now, if you see one element in your title, but you go and look at what's in it and you see 3 or 4 or 5 rows where people will say RG course is such and account number is, or and coordinator is equal, and it says, wait a minute, the query title doesn't say that. So again, that's one to kind of watch if you're especially the keeper of the flame to either relabel, rename that query to be able to more accurately describe what it does, or edit the query and take out the spurious part there. So, all right, query editing. Deactivating reports. Again, reports are things that can grow, especially if you've got a whiz who's maybe doing some report writing, and what you'll typically find a lot of times is sample 1 or sample 3 or sample 4 and sample 5. And they keep sample 5, but they never go back and get rid of sample 1, 2, 3, and 4. So again, from the deactivate, you can actually hide them from the list, which just, again, cleans up the options. That's under Tools, Reports, Activate, Deactivate. There also is a Delete Reports. So again, you can get rid of reports that you say those are bad ones. Those were the practice ones that we were working on before we had our final. And of course, pack and reindex. One of the things for former ACEware or ACEware users who have been around a while, in the early days, pack and reindex was a lot more important. Now, most of the indexes are pretty much automatically maintained. So again, indexing isn't a big deal. Packing is the routine that will actually completely remove deleted records. And again, generally, we'll talk about schedule in a bit, but that's something, again, a deleted record is pretty much hidden from the system once it's deleted. So the idea of having to be, doing that a lot is generally not a huge deal. So again, the idea quarterly is normally a good enough approach on that. So again, pack and reindex, again, you need to be single user, the only kid in the sandbox. You click on pack and reindex. You have the option to select all. If you want to do the pack, which is the condition that removes deleted records, you'd hit the pack, hit the run, and it will take care of that. Now, coming back to this course mass change, update, delete, we talked about it a little bit before, but again, you can use this to purge old wait lists, delete room use records, or lock completed courses if you are doing like a semester and you're going to lock up courses that have been finished up. And again, a reminder that you can do several courses on a begins with in this particular cleanup. Closing off to the end here, zip code and area code updates. under the tools area is I think this is under tools, is a new zip file that we update generally every 5 or 6 months that will give you the latest zip codes and area codes for the US of A. Again, if you're in a metropolitan area, you'd probably be more worried about that than if you were in a rural area. But that is a upload tool or download tool for you to be able to use. Financial, new tools, couple of new tools. Matthew has organized under the tools area a financial tool that includes the void invoice receipt and a new tool called ZapCharge. And this is one, again, if you have a system that's been around a while and you might have a bunch of balances, bad debts, they were billings that were paid but never really got cleaned out, and you want to clear up the balances on these old courses, you can do a mass update routine. And again, it says ZapCharge, but the note is the way we handle that is that we do a fee adjustment description to zero out the balances. And again, so you'll see options: clear all balances, just clear outstanding balance, or just clear a credit balance. Now, for the credit balance, it would be if you're doing escrow and you want to clear out some escrow balances, this would be, Matthew, you can tell me would that work for clearing out escrow, or would there'd probably be a better way to do that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't use this for doing escrow, but I mean, it will work. Yeah, but that's a new tool if you've got some old balances you're trying to clear up. Void invoice has been around a while, but that's one I'd kind of remind you, if you're doing billing and invoicing and you've put together an invoice for 50 people, sent it out, you've run it, and you've applied the invoice, and afterwards you say, oh, Sugarfoot, I'm missing something, or it was a wrong percentage rate, and I've got to void all 50 of those invoices. Well, the void receipt invoice allows you to batch void, batch void a whole group of invoices at one time without having to go in one by one to do that. Maintenance schedule, detailed maintenance schedule. It is listed in the reference guide. Again, the idea: backups, reindexing, deactivating courses, upgrading the system. Again, your schedule ought to be defined to meet your needs, but these are models of things that you can take a look at to see how you might want to set up your personal, standard operations manual for the program. So we are a couple minutes over our hour, where we are with questions.
Okay. I do want to share, but I have a couple questions here, but also want to share that student manager maintenance schedule is a handout that folks can get from the toolbar, the Citrix toolbar there on the right. So if they want to take that and print it, they can do that.
Very good.
I'm going to return a little bit to archiving. Chuck, you talked a lot about archiving courses. What is your recommendation for those that have a lot of names, inactive names, for folks maybe that haven't had any activity in several years?
Inactive names, and Matthew, I may invite you to pop in on that. Yeah, archiving. The archiving routine only moves data out of the course table, the registration table, and the pay table. The name table generally is not affected by that. What you can do with names is to uncheck the active box, and it keeps the name in the file. Unfortunately, it doesn't make a huge difference in speed, but certainly the inactive approach is one way to do it. I guess the other thing that I would look at in the purge routine is that if you've got, so we go module names, mass delete purge, would be that you could choose to delete old names that haven't had any activity. If a name has a registration in your history, even though it's old, depending on your programs, if they're personal interest programs and there aren't any statutory requirements like a professional ed program, then you could probably delete an old name and an old registration in basket weaving or Chinese cooking without much impact on your program. So again, yeah, that's kind of a tricky one. I would say deleting old names where there have not had any registrations. My recommendation is that if you have a name that's over 3 years old and it's been marketed to regularly and has not had any registrations, unless you've got a good reason, I would put that name on the send to the brickyards, send that out to sea and get that name out of your database. Matthew, you got any thoughts on that?
Well, I would say, besides purging names, the deactivating names, if you do deactivate a large chunk of names, then the lookup active name is quite a bit faster.
Quicker. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, if you've only got a small percentage of deactivated names, then yeah, there isn't much noticeable difference. But yeah, once you hit about 50% of your names deactivated, you will start seeing speed up and on an exponential rate. So
good. All right. Other
the only remaining question I see here is a question about recovering data that was archived in Student Manager 7. So what advice would you give to folks that may be in that situation?
Matthew, I'm going to let you have that.
We do have a tool that will convert from the old archive structure into the new archive structure. Just get with your technician and they can run that tool for you. And and yeah, go from there.
Very good. The question about deleting old names, I'm going to show you a report under the statistics area, name demographic summary. One of the options here is to run what's called the date of last activity date. And if we were to run the last activity date of name records, and we use for a query somebody who has no registration records. So we would say number of courses taken equals 0. I have to build a query on that. Equals 0. And add the query, courses taken, number of courses taken is equal to 0. So if I wanted to run to find out what was the last activity date of people in my database who have never taken a course, run it equal to 0. I want to do it by year, skip the money because these don't have. Now my little dummy database has only a couple of years of memories, but it would tell you then 1995 X number, 1996 Y number, so that you could see how many records you'd be able to clean up by getting rid of some of those old names. And that's a shocking number a lot of times, especially if you've had a system around a while. So, all right, well, listen, a couple of reminders. Annual Users Conference is only a couple of months away. Still time to register. Love to have you. Our next webinar is May 18th on navigating reporting, another important one. That should be a good one. Sharon, any wrap-up things before we let people go?
Other than, wow, thanks for your patience. Lots of good stuff. Matthew does, though.
Yeah, I have one more thing. I've been looking at the combined names utility again. Looks like I was mistaken. I was right in that the top record shown is the record that gets combined into. It is going off of the NM update. The last updated record is the one that shows up on top.
Okay, so you've already fixed the problem that people have requested. So good job, Matthew.
Yeah.
No, but that was a suggestion. So it is, for those of you still around, it is the most recent update date that ranks the name as far as who's the top dog in those duplicates. So thank you, Matthew. Sharon, last shot.
Oh, that's it. Lots of good stuff today.
Wow, lots of good stuff. All right, well, everybody have a good week. Enjoy April the 20th, and we'll see you in a few weeks. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.